This is 3.2, solving equations having like terms in parentheses. So basically we're going to be doing things we already know to do. We're just going to be adding them to equations. Now we have simplified expressions with like terms in parentheses, but we have not solved equations with these. And so it's a skill you already know. We're just going to put it with equation solving. This isn't really new, it's just a new way of using some of the skills you should have already learned. So let's look at a few of these. We're going to solve these equations just using the distributive property first. Again, anytime, even an expression, we always said if you see parentheses, we need to get rid of those. And that's the same thing with equations. When we see parentheses, we need to get rid of them. So that's the first thing we need to do is get rid of all parentheses. So probably should get a good pen color. Let's try yellow here. Okay. So what I want to do is, again, let's do this line down the center, and I'm running a little crooked, but that's okay. Negative 21 equals. Now I want to multiply, so it's this times this, which is 21. And then this times this, that's a negative x, so it's negative 7x. Okay? Now we're ready to solve. Okay, it's a two-step equation, and this is something you've already done. I'm going to get rid of the 21. Then I get rid of what's multiplied. Okay, I always get rid of what's multiplied, or if x is being divided, I get rid of that number last. Okay, so I get rid of this one first. So I subtract 21 from both sides. Subtract 21. This becomes negative 21 and negative 21 give me negative 42 equals negative 7x. Last step is to get rid of this multiplication. So I divide, which is the opposite or inverse operation. Divide both sides by negative 7. X equals, and that is 42 divided by 7. That is 6, positive 6, because that is two negatives when we divide make a positive number. And we're just going to turn this around to make my high school algebra teacher happy. Okay. Now here, again, we have parentheses, and the first step is to get rid of all parentheses. So I'm going to multiply this times this, and that is negative 3 times 8, which is negative 24. This times this, I've got a negative 4x and a negative 3. That's going to be a positive 12x. Okay? Equals 12. Now, I've got two things to get rid of. Again, I got to get rid of the 12, and I've got to get rid of the negative 24. The negative 24 goes first, as always. That is negative, so I want to add it. Now, I don't care about this sign when I'm wanting to get rid of this. I care about the sign of this number. If I subtract 24, that gives me negative 48. I don't want that. I want to add 24 to make it 0. So I add 24 to both sides. Okay, again, I've got 12x equals 24 plus 12 is 36. Okay, last step, get rid of the 12. It's multiplied, so I divide. I get x equals 3. Good. Last one here. Get rid of the parentheses. 2 times x is 2x. 2 times negative 1 is negative 2. And that equals 6. Two things to get rid of, the 2 and the negative 2. Get rid of the negative 2 first, as we talked about already. That goes away. I get 2x equals 8. Get rid of this multiplication bond. I call it like a chemical bond. It's a multiplication bond by division. That gives me x equals 4. Okay? That's solving using the distributive property. Now let's look at something else. We're going to add a little step to it. Now here, we want to solve by combining like terms, but we're also going to use distributive property in some of these other problems also. So let's look at this first one. First, I want to combine like terms. I want to get it to a two-step equation. Okay? So I've got this and this. These are the only two like terms I've got. So let's add those. I get 5x minus 40 equals 15. Okay, now it's a two-step equation. I want to get rid of the negative 40. I want to get rid of the 5. And I want to get rid of this negative 40 first by adding 40. Okay, so I get 5x equals 55. Now get rid of this multiplication bond by doing the inverse operation, which is divide by 5. Okay, then x equals 11. Okay, that's by combining like terms. Now we've done something like that before. Okay, now we're going to do something like that here with the distributive property. So when I see this problem right here, I see parentheses, and it's something I want to get rid of. I want to get rid of the parentheses first. The 5x has nothing to do with the parentheses, so I'm just going to write it down right here. Then I'm going to take this negative 2 and multiply it by x. That gives me a negative 2x. I'm going to take this negative 2 and multiply it by negative 1. That gives me a positive 2. And that equals 8. Now, I've got two things that are alike here. I want to go ahead and combine those. So I get 5x and negative 2x. That gives me a positive 3x. Now I'm to a place I'm familiar with. I've got a two-step equation. I've got to get rid of two things, the 3 and the 2. I subtract 2 from both sides. I get 3x equals 6. Get rid of this multiplication by doing the opposite, which is divide. I get x equals 2. Let's do one here. Okay, again, I want to get rid of parentheses. I don't even have an equal sign here. This is not going to work. So I don't know what this equals. We will just get rid of this one and move on. That was a mistake. Let's go to the next. Okay, we've got a few problems here. Let's get rid of the parentheses. So 3 times x is 3x plus 3 equals 6. Two things to get rid of, the 3 and the 3. Actually, they are two things, even though they're the same thing. Get rid of what's added first. 3x equals 3. Last step, divide by 3. X equals 1. Okay, again, and the way I'm doing it here, I want you to do it on your paper, even but neater. Okay, I have a hard time writing anyway, but writing on a tablet is harder for me. So this one, the 5 is not involved with distributed property, so I'm just going to go ahead and write it down. Take the 2, multiply it by the x, I get 2x, and it's positive, so I'm adding it. Take the 2 and multiply it by negative 2, I get a negative 4, equals 19. Okay, now I've got 5 and negative 4. Those are like terms. I want to add those. That gives me 1. So 2x, and it's a positive 1, so it's 2x plus 1 equals 19. Two-step equation, get rid of the 1 first. 2x equals 18. Divide by 2 here, divide by 2 here. X equals 9. Very good. You need to circle your answer, especially when you show a lot of work. Last one here is just a simple distributed property, and then a two-step equation. Okay, 8 times x, 8x. 8 times negative 1, negative 8. That equals 16. Okay, I've got this negative 8 to get rid of and this positive 8 to get rid of. So I'm going to get rid of the negative 8 first by adding it to both sides of the equal sign. That is 24 equals 8x. Last step, I've got this multiplication bond is only undone by the division. So we have to divide by the number it's being multiplied by. So I divide by 8 here, divide by 8 here. 3 is equal to x, but we like writing x equals 3. That is more logical to write. Okay, next page. We have a rectangle. Rectangle. Find the width of the rectangle if the perimeter is 28 units. Well, if you remember right, the perimeter is the distance around the rectangle, all the way around. And if we're finding perimeter, we have to add all the sides together. Well, this has 4 sides. But if I add 2 of these sides together, that should give me half of the perimeter, shouldn't it? So this would save a little work if we just add 2 of the sides together and take half of this and make an equation to figure out what x is. We have to know what x is to figure out the width. Okay, so we have to make an equation to figure out what x is. Okay, so I'm just going to take half of this, since we only want to work with half of this. It makes it a little easier. So if I add x plus 2 plus 10, that should equal half of our perimeter, which is 14. Okay, so 2 and 10 are like terms. I can add those. I get x plus 12 equals 14. Okay, subtract 12 from both sides. I get x equals 2. Okay, so does this work? Obviously, 2 plus 2 is 4, and that's 10. This side should be 4, and this side should be 10. If we add it all up, 10 plus 10 is 20. Plus 4 is 24, plus 4 is 28, and that gives us 28 units. Now this side doesn't look 4 units because this side's 10. I don't know. I didn't draw it quite correctly, but that's how you work that out. You always have to make an equation if you want to figure out what x equals to, or what the variable equals to. So we did that. Could you have done x plus 2 plus x plus 2 plus 10 plus 10? Yes, you could have, and set it equal to 28. You just have more stuff to combine, but it still works out. Last one, always want to get a word problem in before we quit. Let's look at now since we're doing an equation, we want to know what it's asking for, because that's what our variable is going to equal. Let's see what it's asking for before we read through it. If they buy equal numbers of pom-poms and noisemakers, how many can they afford to buy? So X is equal to how many? Okay, and that's the noisemakers and pom-poms. They're buying an equal amount, so it's how many of these they're buying. Okay, that's our variable. Let's see if we can set up an equation. Okay, so for the game, the cheerleaders want to buy a banner that's $47. Um, that's not a rate, but that is a one-time cost. So it's going to go over here. It's going to go towards our total. Okay. They also want to buy small items to give to students in the stands. Pom-poms cost $5.20 each, and that word each is telling you this is a rate. Each, something that's multiplied over and over again. That's a rate. Okay. Their total budget for the game is $377. That's a total. Okay. The total goes over here. Okay, so if I've got $5.20 per pom-pom, I need to know how many I'm getting. Well, I don't, so I've got X. So this is a rate. It's going to be multiplied by X. Okay, 520X. Okay, that's going to be added to. Well, how much are the noisemakers? 80 cents. And that's also going to be multiplied by X because we're getting the same amount of each. Okay, so that's going to be plus 0.8X. Okay, again, these, when you see each, that's telling you it's a rate. Rates are multiplied by something, okay? I can add these two together. I get, this adds nicely, I get 6x. 5.2 and 0.8 give me 6. I combine like terms, basically, is what I did. 377. I hope I don't run out of room, but it looks like I'm going to. Subtract 47 from both sides. I'm going to go over here. Don't do this on your paper, but we're going to go over here. 6x equals, that is 0, that is 3, and that is 3. One last step, I'm going to divide by 6, and x is going to equal, well, 6 into 33 goes 5 times, remainder 3, 6 into 30 goes 5 times, x equals 55. And that concludes our lesson, our tutorial over 3.2. I hope this helps.